Hi everyone, my name is Shelley Cobb and I'm the principal investigator of Calling the Shots, Women in Contemporary Film Culture in the UK, in which we did a large study of women across British film industry from 2003-2015, and I'm here with my research partner,
Ruth Williams. I'm the co-investigator on the Calling the Shots project.
Just briefly, this is our whole team there in that image with our two PhD students, Sarah and Anya, and our research fellow, Natalie Rayford, who did the investigative archaeological work on the data, finding all these women, where they are, what kinds of work they're doing.
We wanted, a contemporary picture of how things are in the film industry, partly by counting the numbers of women and finding them in the sense of interviewing them, hearing their stories as a way of filling in the gaps in film history. We've so far interviewed 59 women right at the start of their careers, women just straight out of film school, mid-career filmmakers, very well-established filmmakers. So we've generated a whole bank of oral histories where women have talked about their experience and what stopped them sort of getting ahead in their careers, what the kinds of productions they've been involved in, the kinds of work they've done. And we are partnered up with a fantastic film archive, BECTU, which is the Entertainment Union in the UK. At the end of our project, when we finished working with the interviews for our books, we are going to hand our interviews over to the BECTU Oral History Archive for anyone to be able to consult in the future. So just a quick snapshot over these slides of some of the people that we've interviewed. So Joanna Hogg, Emma Sante, Carol Morley, Polly Morgan, who's really interesting, now probably mid-career cinematographer. So lots and lots of women giving different sort of nuances to their stories. And we found also that although the interviews are contributing to a sort of stronger sense of women's roles within film history and attesting to the sort of the gaps in film history as well, projects they weren't able to work on as well as the work that they were able to do. As we've said here at the bottom, and Shelley and I have co-authored an article about this. We're really interested in the interesting sort of hesitations and moments within our interviews when women look back at points when they were blocked from doing what they wanted to do, or they had to change direction for particular reasons, or they were denied funding for kind of interesting political reasons, but also just to do with the sort of shape of their own career. So whereas in a way we're as interested in what women say about what they weren't able to do as what they attest to having done as their contribution to film history. So that's the qualitative side of the research that we've done, and we're still working with this interview material.
I am now going to look at some patterns and the lack of progress in the data itself and the numbers that we have. The most robust, detailed data set we have across all 6 roles is for the production year of 2015. And there are 2 key things which are pretty common across all the data sets that we have. Is one, as you can see there in that bottom image, the key standout item there is of all the personnel working in those 6 key roles, only 20% were women. The corresponding number with that is that 25% of all the films had no women in any of the 6 key roles, no women in any head of department roles whatsoever. And if you think about how many producers can sometimes be on a film, it's quite extraordinary to imagine films being made without a single woman anywhere in any head of department role. So these are quite sort of standout statistics, quite shocking statistics for the British film industry when we first published them. So again, for 2015, we have the detailed percentages for each of those roles: directors, screenwriters, editors, cinematographers, producers, and exec producers. So obviously the image itself, first thing it tells you is that men dominate everywhere. But then of course you look and you see that some roles for women are a little bit better than others, like producers being at 27%, and of course cinematographers was seen as a more technical role, being quite low at 7%. But often the thing we have to remind people is that producers is one of those roles that is seen as something that is good for women and works well for women, but they still are nowhere near half. This is a kind of linear between 2003 and 2015. This is where we have data sets in detail for both these years, and you can see lack of progress or some little bit of progress. in each individual role there. And then of those roles, we have more detail across all years for 3 particular ones. So first starting with director. So you can see that trajectory over time has its up and downs in between the years, with some standout years around 2008 and 2010. So you can see this here for cinematographers. Again, we have this standout year at 14%. But the overall trajectory really only goes up from about 2 to 7. We end up wondering what happens to those other women in that 14% of that year. But again, this up and down without any clear linear movement to progress. This is particularly obvious with editors, and is really disappointing because, again, the editorial role is one head of department role that lots of women seem like, oh, I thought there were lots of us, and there just aren't. So if we look at the total of films across 2003, 2015 for those roles, there are nearly 3,500 films in that 12-year period. And here you can see the total percentages, where again, men are dominant and women are very small portions of these 3 roles. And I wanted to give you that graph in part because then we want to break it down to think about women of color. We've been working with percentages, and what you have here are the actual numbers of women. So if you look overall, you can see the few hundred white women that are working in each of these 3 roles. But you look closely, and the number of Black women directors is only 14 across 3,500 films. Women cinematographers, the number of South Asian women photographers across 3,500 films is only 4. And editors, East Asian women across 3,500 films is only 10. So really low, really bad numbers here. The other thing our data does do, which gives us a little bit of positive things, that women work with and hire other women. First slide there, that big portion, 93%, is films with women directors that also have women screenwriters. That's also particularly true with women directors working with at least one woman producer. It's really important to know that when women are given the resources, they do hire and work with other women.
Sort of leading on from this in a way, we have found that in disseminating our research and trying to effect change through producing this research, that working with other organisations has been really, really beneficial. That the more alliances you build up of between like-minded organisations and other people who are affecting change, never see them as rivals, always see them as people who are fighting the fight alongside you. They're in a better position to perhaps affect different parts of the industry using our research, and those collaborations continue.
So just 3 key takeaways from our research to finish. The key thing is, like other cinema cultures, is women of color who fare far worse than white women, even though we know women overall well below 50-50. Women of color particularly marginalized from the film industry, and we believe that this is in Western countries common. Importantly, we want to note that alliances of pressuring groups working together can affect change. We believe we've had some influence on the British Film Institute alongside our partners that Linda just mentioned. And the British Film Institute now has set equality and diversity targets for its film fund, which is great news. But the important thing to remember is there's no clear progress narrative here. Numbers have flatlined or have gotten worse. And we need to think strongly about how to use the things we know about women working with other women to improve things and to give more funding, to simply just hire more women rather than constantly retraining them, having little initiatives, little groups, etc., but really just getting women in the industry with more power. So thank you for listening to us. Thank you to Linda. We're both really pleased to be here, and we're looking forward to seeing and hearing about how all of these things are happening across all the national industries that are being discussed today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.